Pressure. Today is an opportunity to engage with the ASO Board of Directors candidates focusing on residential and Pan-Hellenic issues. My name is Blake Zelisa. I'm the RCCA Director of Government Affairs and
My name is Morgan Davis. I'm the Vice President of Public Relations for Pan-Hellenic.
I see how it is. I will be mediating the RCCA questions, keeping time, and Morgan will be asking the Pan-Hellenic questions. Aaliyah, who's in the purple shirt with RCCA, will be sourcing the community questions. To get these community questions, we'd really appreciate if you can look at those QR codes under each position on the agenda that you were given. You'll be able to submit a question to each of those Google forms if you're interested in asking a question. Aaliyah will source it from the Google form and we will ask it from the candidates. We'll try to keep as closely to the agenda as we can. We did put a 17-minute buffer at the end as well. So if we go over time in any of these sections, we'll probably be okay. Now, if there are no questions ahead of time, then I would like to introduce the candidate to the Director of Programming. Around that area. So if you would please start off with your introduction. It will be for 30 seconds, and for each of the candidates, I will raise my hand and we have 10 seconds left. There you go.
Hey everyone, can y'all hear me good? Hi guys, my name is Tessa Latour and I go by she, her pronouns. I'm currently a sophomore hoping to major in psychology at LSJ. I'm currently running for the Director of Programming.
Thank you. We're going to move on to then 4.
Okay. So in the past, Pan-Hellenic has sponsored a variety of ASUW events such as the spring show and fall play. How will you expand group engagement in new and existing ASUW events?
Thank you for the question. For my role, I plan to reach out to all Greek life and RCSA leadership to conduct monthly outreach events through which I can get student input. I plan on consistently communicating with the students just because all these events, we do want a lot of engagement. We want to collaborate with Greek life. Again, student engagement is one of the biggest things that we see in events, and just to get to know what you guys are looking for in events is the biggest thing that
Thank you. We're going to move on to the RCCA questions, 60 seconds. How do you aim to effectively gain residential opinion when it comes to performers and events put on by ASUW?
Thank you for the question. I plan to reach out and schedule a session with RCSA, Pan-Hellenic, and IFC in the beginning of the year and consistently throughout the year check in with them to ensure residential opinion is being met. I plan on having physical and digital posters all throughout UW, all throughout the campus, throughout the ASUW, and the resident halls, which will have the QR codes, so the students are able to complete the Google surveys or the Google forms that will be sent out. I plan, during my office hours, I plan on engaging with the residents, again, to get their input on who they're wanting to see, what they're wanting to have, and just to make their decisions.
Thank you. We'll move on to Aaliyah, see if we have a community question.
As the Director of Programming, what programming inefficiency will you tackle first?
You have 60 seconds.
Thank you for the question. I think one of the biggest things that programs sometimes lack is student engagement, and that's the platform that we are running on. We want to increase accessibility for all events, and that's something that I want to work towards. Again, I just want to work with the organizations to get student input, just so we can have a lot of engagement throughout the year.
Thank you. Now we have 30 seconds for your simply ending statement, your conclusion.
Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to speak at this forum. Again, my name is Kisa Batsua, and I'm running for the Director of Programming. Through this role, I will work toward increasing accessibility and increasing student engagement. Thank you all.
Perfect. With that, we'll move on to the Director of Internal Policy. We're going to start off with a 30-second introduction. I'll hand it off to you.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Brent Seto, and I'm running for the Director of Internal Policy. I use he/him pronouns, and I'm from San Jose, California originally. I've been working for ASU Dove for the past 3 years in organizations like the Student Senate, the Asian Student Commission, and the Judicial Committee, to name a few. And my organizational experiences have given me insight into what needs to be changed within the organization and what needs to be, in my time as Senate liaison and Secretary of Recommendations for the Judicial Committee, has given me a deep understanding of our governing documents. And as Director of Internal Policy, I'll be able to best support ASU Dove by reforming our governing documents, promote equity, accessibility, and create a more accessible environment.
Thank you. Just a reminder, I said it only once, but we'll just raise a hand at the 10 seconds. No problem at all. It's good to reiterate it. I'll pass it on to actually both of us. The joint Panhellenic and RCSA question, you got 120 seconds, 2 minutes, which is how do you aim to direct the culture and policy of ASU selections and elections to include student leaders in areas outside of ASU, such as residential life or Panhellenic?
Yeah, so the way I hope to direct the culture and policy of the ASU Dove elections towards including student leaders and communities outside of the ASU Dove is by making big changes to one of our governing documents, the elections policies and procedures. For the past 2 years, I've worked on the ASU Dove Judicial Committee, where I've ensured the validity of ASU Dove elections, and my experiences have given me a deep understanding of our governing documents and knowledge of what areas within ASU Dove need to change. And as the next Director of Internal Policy, my committee's greatest responsibility in autumn quarter is to collaborate with the Elections Administrations Committee to revise and finalize the elections policies and procedures which guide ASU Dove elections. And so right now, Section 14 of the EPP lays out duties of the EAC, but those clauses are vague and they're not really well enforced whatsoever. For example, in winter quarter, the deadline to promote the elections is week 2, but the filing deadline is like 7 weeks later. That's not enough time, and it's quite honestly not accessible for people that are outside of the ASU Dove. The system is built around ASU Dove insiders and letting them work towards the top, while outsiders are left confused and ostracized about the entire elections process. And so I'll change this by reforming next year's EPP during autumn quarter. This autumn, I saw no promotional material being put out, and this needs to be changed through a stronger push by the Judicial Committee autumn quarter to make sure that the EAC is held accountable to the guidelines set out in the EPP, as well as actually setting a strict calendar for the EAC to follow in terms of like promoting the election, raising awareness of the positions available, those types of information. That needs to be done much earlier. So promoting campaign filing dates, stuff like that, that's all really important. And so I will work with next year's EAC and collaborate with organizations such as RCSA, Panhellenic, and department majors to make sure the election is better promoted and the EAC is held more accountable.
Thank you. We'll pass it on to you. Yeah, let's give a round of applause. We'll pass it on to Aaliyah for any question.
How do you see monthly reports and summary documents connecting ASU Dove and GPSS?
Yeah, so as someone who's been in Student Center for 3 years, I think one of the biggest issues with GPSS is that there's a lack of understanding of the issues that GPSS is actually discussing. And then even if you do know what they're discussing, knowing who to reach out to and understand like who to contact if you wanted to collaborate on an event, legislation, joint legislation, what have it. So I think the reason why monthly reports and updates would be effective is that I would lay out not only the structure of GPSS, which is something that's pretty confusing as it's different from the Student Senate. But it would also contain information on who to contact should you want to reach out and collaborate, as well as like summaries of the meetings in GPSS so people know what's going on. And I would actually be doing the same for GPSS as well. There needs to be an understanding on both sides of the bodies that what's going on in either Senate. So doing this would actually, like how GPSS connect to ASU, but also student senators within the normal Senate connect to the graduate student one as well.
Thank you. And we will move on to your conclusion for 30 seconds.
Yeah, so thanks for listening to me speak about my platform. And given my 3 years of experience in various aspects of the ASU, I have a great understanding of how the organization runs and what problems exist that need to be addressed. Immediately, I'm running on a platform of reform with my ticket, Huskies for Change. And with my changes and amendments to the ASU governing documents, I am determined to promote transparency, accountability, and equity in the ASU.
Thank you. On to the candidate for the Director of Campus Partnerships. Start off with 30-second introduction. As a reminder, I'll raise my hand when there are 10 seconds left, and I'll hand it off to you for 30 seconds.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kennedy Patterson. I'm running for the Director of Campus Partnerships position. And I'm dedicated towards increasing mental health accessibility, sustainability, and awareness, as well as improving campus safety measures within our campus.
Thank you.
As the Director of Campus Partnerships, you serve as the ASU liaison to the UW Police Department and the chair of the Student Safety Advisory Board. How do you plan to better the safety of the students living in the Greek community as they do not fall under UW PD jurisdiction?
Thank you. What a wonderful question. As the Student Safety Advisory Board does not have a seat for residents living on Greek Road to express concerns about safety, I will reinstate the North and 45th Committee, which will allow voices living within the vicinity of Greek Road to not only house their concerns regarding safety, but also shape safety measures that will allow residents to feel most secure and safe.
Thank you. So the RC State question, this will be 60 seconds. One responsibility of the Director of Campus Partnerships is to connect with Hall Health. How would you work to make sure students and residents are aware of resources available through Hall Health? And what changes on the part of Hall Health do you believe would improve the use of their staff-funded programs?
Thank you. I love this question as I am totally for increasing mental health accessibility and awareness within our campus. I will be working with the ASU Director of Communications as well as the RCSA Director of Communication to push promotional materials surrounding services provided by the Counseling Center, Hall Health, and as well as the WELL. As for the SAF fund, I will be reviewing the allocations of the funds to ensure that counselors have the necessary resources to adequately serve students utilizing the counseling services. This is quite vital as it will lead towards greater retention rates within our counselors and ultimately increase the quality of services provided to students accessing these resources.
Thank you. I will pass on to Olivia. If we've got a community question. Do not have a community question. So we will allow you your 30-second conclusion.
Thank you again for your time. My name is Kennedy Patterson. I'm running for the Director of Campus Partnerships position, and I'm looking forward to serving you as I'm dedicated towards increasing mental health accessibility as well as improving campus safety measures. To learn more about my platform, you can check out my ticket I'm running with on Instagram at Huskies for Change. Thank you.
And I know we didn't have a community question there, but we will have time at the end if you do want to talk to the candidates. We'll be here till such a call. So next we'll have Director of Community Relations, Hop up. Let's go. So we'll have a 30-second introduction.
All right, hi everybody. My name is Ben Roscoe, and I'm running for the Director of Community Relations. Coming back from COVID, some of the concerns that I've heard and that I've just kind of felt on campus is that it's harder for people. They're just a little bit less willing to go out and seek those opportunities. There's just been a kind of a disconnect in campus engagement, and something that I've heard especially is kind of the stratification of people in different communities. So that's why I'm running. I want to kind of bridge gaps between communities and help make sure that resources and opportunities are taken up a little bit more effectively.
Thank you.
Your position works very closely with various organizations, but particularly the Greek community. Other than attending our leadership meetings, what alternate ideas do you have to further engage Pan-Hellenic with events on campus and other RSOs?
I really appreciate this question, so thank you, Megan. You know, it really kind of comes back to that, like I said, that stratification. Like, I just want people to feel more connected across communities. So some ways that I plan to do that, you know, there's really only so much that I can do as an ASU representative. I'm happy to go to every meeting and tell you guys about every event, and I think consistency in that will be helpful. But one other thing that I want to do is increase connections across communities, getting leaders of the different communities, international students, transfer students, RCSA, and Pan-Hellenic, things like this. I really love to see people coming together. And so I just want to get leaders in all these communities together so that they're able to share information across connections, you know what I mean, across communities as well. You know, establishing clear communication, whether it's through email or a group chat, something like that, so that everybody has those personal connections, make it a little easier.
Thank you. Now we have the RCSA question for 60 seconds, which is, as Director of Community Relations, you connect many community members living on and near campus through your work with and attendance of various constituents meetings. How do you aim to get residents excited about ACW, its entities, and its events, beyond providing information about existing ACW events?
Thank you, Blake. Yeah, this kind of goes back to the same thing I've been harping on. It's just, you know, there's been kind of this disconnect, you know, coming back from COVID and all that, trying to get everybody to really, you know, take their college experience by the horns, right? And just go out, and there's just been a little bit of a coldness there. And so one thing that I really want to do to help with this is I think consistency is going to be very helpful. Going out, you know, even into spring quarter, still going out and saying, hey, these are all the fun things going on. And you know, it's gonna take more than just showing up to meetings and saying, here's what's going on. So the other thing I want to do is establish personal connections. In my time with the Dog Pack and with the Lettuce Eating Club, something that I found that's really helped with student engagement is word of mouth and consistency. So trying to get people to, you know, Dog Pack games, that's something that I've been doing for a long time. And the thing that's been really helpful is word of mouth, you know, saying, hey, I've seen you around, I'd really love to see you at this. So making those personal connections with people in the different communities and having them do the same to their friends as well.
Thank you. And we will pass on for the community question.
How do you plan to connect university residents and Pan-Hellenic communities for better engagement?
Thank you so much for this question. So like I said before, you know, establishing those connections across communities is going to be something very helpful. One way that I hope to do this is with, you know, leaders, making sure that leaders in each community are connected with each other and with the ACW. I think that's going to be very helpful. And one thing that I think we can all gather around, and something that I don't think ACW has personally done enough of, is outreach through athletics. So I want to reestablish the Dog Pack Advisory Board. So the Dog Pack has an entity in the ASU, so that everybody on campus can go to these games together, you know, feel empowered. And, you know, we also do plenty of other events as well. And also I want those connections, like I've been talking about, to put on more events together like this. You know, seeing Pan-Hellenic and RCSA here, I love seeing that, but I wish IFC were here. And I wish, you know, we have international students and transfer students as well here. So that's something that I really hope to bring going forward.
Thank you. Now we just have the 30-second conclusion.
All right, I don't want to take any more of your time, but like I said, my name is Ben Roscoe, and I'm running for Director of Community Relations on a platform that really seeks to, a lot of the people on running today, you're going to hear that they want to do a lot more outreach so that people know about ASUW and ASUW knows about a lot of people. And I think my position is really well suited for that. So thank you. This has been really fun. I appreciate everybody who's here.
Now we'll move on to candidates for the Director of University Affairs, if they're able to come on up. So for this first part, we're going to do introductions for 30 seconds. We're going to start off with Nathan for 30 seconds, and then you can pass the mic on to Adrian for 30 seconds. 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, I just can't help them behind speakers. Okay, hi, everyone. I'm Nathan Mitchell. I'm a junior studying anthropology, and I'm the Director of University Affairs. I've lived in HFS my whole time at UW. These past 2 years, I've been working as an RA, and one of my main goals as to be Director of University Affairs is to fight for working students. And I think I understand the issues of students living on campus and near campus, and I hope to fight for you too.
Hello, Peace. How's it going? My name's Adrian. I'm currently director of ASUW, that is the entity that serves all the international students on campus. I know you guys are mostly here for the free pizza. I am here too, but I'm here also to run for University Affairs. I'm excited to be here. I'm currently running a task force that aims to diversify the food in the dining halls. So if you want better tasting food, go for it.
Thank you all. Pass it on for a Panhellenic question. We're going to start then with Nathan, pass it on to Adrian.
As the Director of University Affairs, how will you ensure that the voice of Greek students are heard and represented to university administration, as well as other councils or committees?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. So one thing I think we've seen a lot of trouble with is outreach in those positions that students sit on, whether it's faculty councils or other commissions through like the College of Arts and Sciences and whatnot. So one thing I really want to push is getting the information about those open selection processes to people in the group, to people living in HFS, making sure that you can actually hear about these opportunities so you can advocate for your communities. And one thing I want to do in addition to that, because we can't put every one of you on a commission like that, is I want to form student working groups to talk about common issues so we can rally behind issues and find policy perspectives that we can work together on, either through ASUW Student Senate or other approaches to work for all students. Thank you.
So I envision having a liaison between my office and the Panhellenic community who can bring weekly updates to me and vice versa. I'm really aware of some of the current issues faced by those students living in the Greek communities. Safety is a top priority for students living north of 45th Street. I will hold regular office hours for students who want to come in and talk about the issues that they currently face. And while I'm not a super great public speaker, I'll bring your voices and concerns to those faculty meetings with the loudest voice I have.
Perfect. We'll move on to the RCSA question. For this question, it will start with Adrian, move on to Nathan. If you do need me to repeat the question, you can just ask. So looking into the future, how do you plan to work to improve the accessibility of learning for students with disabilities? With that, how can the input of students empower and inform the opinions that you bring to the Faculty Senate?
Yeah, so one of my top priorities for next year is actually to ensure remote learning remains an option for all students. Again, communities around campus, they are suffering from COVID. So are students with disabilities. I'll push the teaching faculties to provide all of the remote materials for all students, so all students have an equitable learning environment. I'll also push for more resources for DRS to speed up their response times to those accommodation requests. As for student input, I'm a very good listener. As you can see through my current work with HFS, we are really taking student input into account when creating this program. We're planning to launch this program where we gather student input on their section menus in the fall. So in the fall, you will be able to provide your input to the chef, and they will make dishes according to your requests. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and that'll always be an option when there are two candidates. The question is, looking into the future, how do you plan to work to improve the accessibility of learning for students with disabilities? And with that, how can the input of students empower and inform the opinions that you bring to the faculty senate?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Blake. So this is an issue that I'm really passionate about. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has really showed us all like how difficult it is to access classes, especially in these transitional quarters where we've had some things online. The first 3 weeks of winter quarter were online, then we went to in person, and some people didn't feel comfortable coming back into the classroom. And so it's really important to me that we see a full expansion of lecture capture technology to all classrooms. The administration has been talking about expanding it. We just haven't seen it happen. So I want to work with students to help hold administration accountable, make sure that we get lecture capture in all classrooms. Additionally, I want to work with faculty senate and get some student voices on that through the various subcommittees to ensure that we can instill hybrid and remote learning options permanently in the teaching procedure. Additionally, I think one thing beyond just accessibility in the classroom, but it's also accessibility on campus. This week is Fuck Stairs. And if any of you have been participating in it, you know how hard it is to access campus. Campus is awful if you can't use stairs. So I really want to push to make sure that all of campus is accessible for all students. Thank you.
Move on to see if there's any question.
Yeah.
It'll be Adrian and then Nathan once again.
Historically, the Director of University Affairs has not thoroughly communicated with the student body to update students on faculty affairs. This leaves many students with little to no idea about discussions that are being held between faculty and administration. What measures would you take to ensure that students, especially residential groups, are aware of faculty and administrative discussions?
So yeah, so I've been part of RSOs in my freshman year. I'm also the current director of OISA, so I work with a lot of communities around campus. If I am elected to be the director of university affairs, I plan to post weekly updates onto the website and social media for all students to check in. I'll also be at many of the HSub led events and also at the RSO events. So I personally have a lot of connections to many of the international RSOs on campus. So I'll be there to know of you guys. I'll be there to share updates from our communities. I really believe transparency is a really important issue in my work, and I really want all of you guys inputs on this. Thank you.
Has to read it again.
I think I'm good. Yeah, no, thank you. This is a problem that has actually really frustrated me this year because I've wanted to do things that like address the concerns of students to administration. I worked this quarter or last quarter on a bill in student senate to help make autumn quarter extraordinary circumstances. And it was really hard to get that through. And I even worked with our current director of university affairs. And it's just hard to see results happen because faculty senate is so out of reach for students. And so one thing I want to do to help better kind of advocate for students and communicate that advocacy to students is work with the director of communications and the office of ASUW president to make sure that in those monthly emails that we want to start getting out, that updates are communicated. Additionally, for folks living in HFS, you have hall senators. I want to make sure that that information is communicated through student senate, so y'all know from a policy perspective what is happening. And also, I want to work with Pan-Hellenic and the Greek community to ensure that y'all have more representation in student government, because I think it's for a while it's been hard for folks to get involved because of that lack of outreach. And I want to use my role as a policy person to help outreach to y'all. Thank you.
Well, we'll now have the conclusion for 30 seconds, again, starting with Adrian, then moving on to Nathan.
Yeah, so again, my name is Adrian. I'm repeating this for those of you who have a hard time remembering names like I do. So if you want very tasting dining hall, we're gonna bring more cultural food, Chinese food, Mexican food into the local point. So yeah, I'm just supporting this vote. I'm running against a very strong ticket that this is a part of. I'm one of the few people actually running now in the ticket. So I enjoy vote to make this happen. And yeah, I'm gonna head out and enjoy some pizza. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you again for having us here. My name is Nathan Mitchell. I'm running for Director of University Affairs. I'd like to remind you all that I want to fight for students and make sure that your voice is heard by administration. Yeah, if you want to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram or through our campaign Instagram. Happy to talk with any of you. Again, I'm Nathan Mitchell, running for Director of University Affairs. Thank you.
So much. We're going to now move on to candidate for the Director of Diversity Efforts. You can do a clap, yeah. Gonna start off with a 30-second introduction. And reminder, 10 seconds.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Better? All right. Hope you guys are having a good day. So my name is Daniel Tadros, and I'm a third year here at UW studying political science and Near Eastern language and civilization. And I'm running for the Director of Diversity Efforts position. I've lived on campus my first 2 years here at UW, and now I live in Fort Gift. I've heard many of the residents concerned through legislations that passed through Student Senate and have experienced them myself during my time on campus. And now that I'm in Norfolk 45th, I share the same concerns as a lot of people who are in Norfolk 45th.
Thank you. Move on to the panel question for 60 seconds.
So currently your position does not directly work with diversity efforts in the Greek community. How do you plan to work with Panhellenic, and what ideas do you have to help us improve our own diversity efforts?
If elected, I fully intend to be a helping hand for Panhellenic in their diversity initiatives, both new and ongoing. I see myself working as a collaborator. I see my work with Panhellenic as a collaborative process where I meet and discuss with Panhellenic officers their plans to promote greater diversity within the Greek community and offer my true and honest feedback, as well as connect them with the resources necessary in order to accomplish their goals, such as the ECC, which has endless resources for the most marginalized members of our community. Specifically, I intend to build a healthy working relationship with an open door policy with Panhellenic's diversity, equity, and inclusion chair, so that I can be one of the many resources available to Panhellenic.
Thank you. Here we go. Next is the RCSA question for 60 seconds again. As Director of Diversity Efforts, you work with multiple diversity commissions to encourage collaboration and a sense of community. How would you work to include residents in the spaces created by this collaboration? And how would you work to assess the concerns of residents regarding the promotion of diversity?
Like my answer with Panhellenic, if elected, I intend to work with RCSA on their diversity and inclusion efforts as a helping hand. One of the initiatives launched by DSU is a Black LLC, which is a learning community, and I fully support that and will work with DSU to make their reality, which I believe RCSA would be a key player in making that a reality. And I was also looking through RCSA website, and I found multiple committees, but no diversity committee. If elected, I'm willing to help the RCSA establish a diversity focused committee within the RCSA to benefit residents should they want to establish that.
Thank you. Move on to a community question. There's no community question, but I will have the reminder again that we'll have time at the end of the forum if you want to talk. So we will have a 30-second conclusion.
Again, my name is Daniel Tadros, and I'm running for the Director of Diversity Efforts position. And I'm here to increase diversity within UW, make sure it's accessible for everyone, make sure it's safe for us, even north of 45th. and within the ecosystem. Thank you.
We'll move on now to the vice president candidates. So we are going to start off again with introductions for 30 seconds. We will start with Lillian, we'll then move on to Peyton.
Great, thank you so much. Hi, folks. Thanks so much for having me here today. My name is Lillian Williamson, and I'm running for the position of Vice President to make ASU more accessible, transparent, and accountable to students. The position of Vice President, even though it's internal facing, it still has a huge role to play in improving the day-to-day lives of residents. I'm so excited to be here tonight and answer some questions about why I'm the best pick for your next Vice President. Thank you. Hello, everyone. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Peyton Murray, and I'm very excited to be running in this ASU Board of Directors campaign. It's been very fun so far. My goal as a prospective Vice President candidate is to increase transparency, visibility, and accessibility for the Board of Directors, and also use this position to directly resonate with a lot of my multifaceted leadership qualities that I'll go over a little bit later.
So you have 60 seconds to answer this question, and then if you need it repeated, just ask. The position of Vice President primarily works internally within ASU rather than with outside organizations. Considering this, what is one example of how the Vice President's work can still be impactful to the residents around campus?
Thank you. So this is a super great question. So there are so many ways that ASU can and should be better collaborating with Panhellenic, RSCSA, and residents as a whole. And this year, as the director of the Career Student Commission, I put on what wound up being a really great and fun and popular collaboration with the RSO group Pride. And it was a really great collaboration that I feel like really connected Panhell and IFC with non-group students. And I really believe that ASU and residents have a lot to gain from working together. And that's one of my big roles as Vice President. So the VP role absolutely does face internally as kind of a chief of staff manager type thing, but that doesn't mean that my role doesn't have a really tangible impact on the day-to-day lives of residents. So as Vice President, it's my job to set up a culture of listening to the needs of students and emphasizing the importance of collaborating with residents. In addition, as VP, I get to serve as a resource for all ASU employees, and that includes employees that have a lot more to do with serving residents, like the Director of Community Relations and the Director of Campus Partnerships. Even as an internal facing employee, there's still a lot that I plan to do to improve the lives of residents around campus.
Okay, so just as Lillian said, while ASU Vice President's work is primarily internally facing, it's really important that all of that work that you're doing internally can be seen externally. And making sure that ASU is a very visible resource is incredibly important to me, especially in the context of the Panhellenic community. So more specifically to Panhellenic, I hope to advocate with the Director of Community Relations for issues that I've seen and worked on directly firsthand, like safety concerns and sexual assault response, making sure that you have a seat at the table to speak those kinds of exceptionally important issues that we're seeing in our community. Also, on top of that, making sure that our CSA and Greek Life are stakeholders in the board of directors and also have the platform to be able to bring up a lot of the issues that they're seeing in their communities. That's incredibly important. And working with the Director of Governmental Affairs to make that happen and make sure that that's accessible.
Now move on to the RCSA question for 60 seconds, which is, as Vice President, you have a role in managing entities and employees of ASU. How do you ensure that employees of ASU and its entities are available to residential leaders as a resource for collaboration? And how do you deal with the case of poor responsiveness to external leaders' inquiries? For this one, we will start with Peyton. To Lillian, we will repeat the question.
Thank you. So I have worked with my executive board to make this a priority, but making sure that office hours are visible and open for community members to be able to address those kinds of key concerns that they're coming up with and making sure that facet of collaboration is real. A lot of the time, and I've seen this in the past couple of weeks, just running for this position, I say like, oh, I'm running for ASUW vice president, and a lot of people don't even know what ASUW or what ASUW is or how it can help you. So I'm hoping to like bridge the gap for all student organizations, including Panhellenic, Greek Life, and RCSA, to make sure that all of the amazing things that ASUW can do for you are much more tangible and seen. And then to address the last question, it's outlined in the Panhellenic, or sorry, so many roles today. It's outlined in the vice president ASUW bylaws to make sure that you have those conversations with individual board members and making sure that if there is an issue, I have a one-on-one conversation to ensure that everyone's okay before moving on to next steps is really important to me for accessibility of the board members.
Great, so I really like this question, and I'm gonna be frank with y'all here. I've seen this kind of poor responsiveness to the needs of student leaders before, and I think that it's absolutely unacceptable. I'm the current director of the Career Student Commission at ASUW, and I get about 150 emails a week. But even within all that communication, I'm still able to spend several hours a week working directly with constituents, including residential leaders. And meeting with students is the best part of my job, and it's how I figure out what issues to advocate on behalf of. And as VP, I have a really large role to play in order to make sure the residential leaders can reach ASUW employees. And I have a plan to do so, which includes setting clear expectations for communication with constituents at autumn orientation, requiring employees to explicitly and publicly list their open office hours so that students know when they can come and speak with them, and encouraging entities to reach out to residential leaders at the start of the year, like I did in my role at QSC. I'll also ensure that all residential leaders know that they can come to me and the president if they're having trouble reaching ASUW employees. And in cases of poor communication, I plan to sit down with employees and just chat about our responsibilities as student leaders and ASUW expectations for professional conduct. Thank you.
Any question? It'll be 60 seconds starting with Peyton. Then Lily.
How will you highlight the various diversity commissions that majority of the student population are fully unaware of?
Good question. I think there are a couple of facets to this. First of all, making sure that that's accessible information through facets like social media, email chains, making sure that student populations know that those are resources that are available and those commissions are working on behalf of diversity-oriented organizations. And also making sure that those individual organizations and committees have a seat at the table. I think that's really important because if they just feel like they're speaking into the void and their voice isn't being heard, what real change is going to come about that? And what real tangible focus does that show on the university's behalf to be able to like advocate for students if those aren't the students that are being directly represented, or alternatively, if they are being represented and their voices aren't being heard, what is the point of having them come in, right? So it's really, really important to make sure that we are advocating as a board of directors and that the future vice president, whether it's Lillian or I, is doing that work. Thank you.
All right, let's get it.
While we're doing this, if you haven't committed or done a community question for the president, you could be doing that now.
How will you highlight the various diversity commissions that the majority of the student population are fully unaware of?
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. This is, I think, my favorite question ever because I direct one of these diversity commissions, the Career Student Commission, and I also sit on the Joint Commissions Committee, which is kind of the body that oversees all of those commissions. So I'm very intimately familiar with this. And in my role so far at QSC, I've really worked to highlight our commission. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I put on one of the largest events that ASUW has seen in the past 5 years, Queer Prom, which had several hundred attendees, and it was really fun. And so it's super, super important to me that we work as a board of directors in order to highlight those positions specifically because they are so integral to ASUW as a whole and to advocating for the needs of minority students. And what that means to me is that means spotlighting them on ASUW social media and all campus emails so that folks are aware that there's these commissions that they can reach out to, both for fun events, but also just as importantly to advocate for their needs, because that's a really big role. So it is so important that these communities be highlighted, and that's definitely something that I'm going to take on in my role as VP.
So we'll go on to your conclusion for 30 seconds and then starting with Peyton, moving on to Lily.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Steve Murray. Thank you all for coming out today. I just wanted to say, don't be scared to vote for me because I'm not on a ticket. This was touched on by Adrian. It's really important that a lot of different people come into ASUW, and being an individual who isn't currently in the organization, I feel like I have a unique position and opportunity to see accessibility issues as they are. And I would be so honored to take on this role, to be able to not only support the Panhellenic community and RCSA, but also other RSOs that currently feel completely disregarded by the board of directors. I want to serve this community, and I feel that my strengths as a leader would help me to do so. Thank you.
Great. So y'all, thank you so much for having me here. It was so great to be able to answer some questions about what I would do in the role as vice president. I am in a really unique position as somebody with immense familiarity with the Constitution and the bylaws in order to be able to effectively run this organization as a manager and as a chief internal operating officer. So I'll stick around after the forum, but y'all are also welcome to reach out to me on our ticket Instagram, which is Huskies for Change. So again, my name is Lillian Williamson, running for the position of vice president. Thank you.
Our last candidate for the day, the president. We do have one slight deviation from the schedule. Another presidential candidate, Naomi Snow, is not able to attend today, so she gave me a 1 minute little thing I can read off. So I'll just read that off super quick. Go. And I will also time myself, just as. Okay, here we go. From Naomi Snow. Hello, everyone. My name is Naomi Snow. My pronouns are she, her. I'm running for the president position. I'm really sad I can't be here tonight. I'm a biology lab. I'm a first-year student, and I currently plan to graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. I grew up in North Bend, Washington, which is about 40 minutes from campus. I'm running because during my time at UW as a student, I have noticed a lot of changes around campus that need to be made, an overall lack of connection between ASUW and the entire student body. I told my friends I was running for ASUW president, and the most common response I got was, "What's ASUW?" I want to increase transparency and communication between ASUW and the student body, make it so that the vast majority of students actually know about ASUW and are comfortable voicing their opinions. This will allow me to make decisions that I feel best represent the student body. We'll also work to improve the overall quality of campus facilities like the IMA, make sure HFS hears in response to HFS complaints, ensure the campus makes proper disability accommodations, and make proper changes for students given COVID times, like requiring conduction in classrooms. Thank you for your time. The email is nsnow134. So we'll move on to a 30-second introduction from Tim.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. My name is Timothy Billing. I use he, them pronouns, and I'm running for president. A little fun fact I like to give everyone about me is I worked at Dick's Drive-In for 2.5 years. I'm kind of gross, but also it's really important to highlight that because the president isn't any special role. The president's about representing students and the student experience and uplifting voices. And I feel like having someone who truly understands what it means to have to work for yourself and work for it to be heard is something that I want to highlight and highlight your voices too. So I'll pass it for questions.
Tim, this will be a 60-second question.
What is your current perception of Panhellenic, and what would the relationship between PHA and ASUW become if you are to be elected?
Awesome. Thank you so much for that question. So something about me right now this year is the only reason I quit Dick's Drive-In was because I was spending a lot of time between working and ASUW that I was actually able to be elected as Senate Speaker. I was kind of shocked that I got elected because it's really hard to find time between ASCW and work. But as Senate Speaker, we've actually been working with Panhellenic and also IFC to find ways to include the Greek students' voices within ASCW because honestly, it's been lacking for a very long time and no one's really tried to address it within ASCW. And so we've been trying to really focus on that because, for example, last year, there's very real issues that are going on north of 45th, especially in regards to safety, as well as with some situations that happened last year with COVID. And so we want to make sure that the Greek voices are included in those decisions. We had legislation come forward about that. We had no one from the Greek system to talk about that. And so we want to make sure that we're being more transparent and including you guys in those conversations, because if we're speaking to administration, your voices should be heard too.
We'll now have a 60-second question from our CSA, which is, on the grand scale from the presidential role, how do you envision the relationship between ASJAB and RCSA, specifically when these groups are engaging in advocacy to improve the lives of residents?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. And so my freshman year, and actually the reason I got involved in ASCW, because I had no clue what it was when I got here, and it was as a hall senator. I lived in Hackett Hall. I still love Hackett Hall, stay Hexy, but it's a great place. And the only reason I chose it because it was an affordable option, because a lot of people who go to UW, it's very difficult to afford living, especially in Seattle. And so RCSA is representing those residents to HFS to ask for what is needed for students. ASUW is a supporting role in that situation by working with them to help represent all students. And so I see that as a collaborative effort. A lot of students have brought up issues regarding dining. ASUW is helping work with RCSA on that, including RAs. That's a really big issue that's sometimes overlooked. They are not compensated equally across dorms. If you're RA in Hackett, you are getting paid as the same as an RA in a brand new dorm. And I don't think that's very fair. And if HFS has not worked on to deal with that because they don't consider them workers. They consider them student assistants for that reason. So they don't have a union. They don't have any way to demand better working conditions with that. So we need to work with RCSA.
Thanks, Tim. And now we have 60 seconds for the community question.
How do you intend to ensure all voices are taken seriously, including those of female identifying students and people of color?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I think it's really important to recognize as an individual your own identity, because that's going to be important when coming to conversations, is that although I do represent all students, that doesn't mean I have to speak for all students. And so I want to make sure that those meetings that happen at high level administration that even I as Senate Speaker are not included in, we're involving members of the campus who don't normally get involved in those discussions, and that the president is a resource, not some power position. And so I want to make sure that ASUW is reaching those students and student groups, going to Greek Row, asking students what they need, finding those student leaders to be able to include in that, including RSA, RSOs. It's important that we're doing outreach to know who needs to be involved in those discussions and who is going to be helpful for us in achieving that change, because honestly, ASUW can't do it alone. And so we need to make sure we're relying on our community to create the change that we want to see.
We have 30 seconds for your conclusion.
Awesome. Thank you so much for attending. It means a lot. I just wanted to ask a few rhetorical questions. You can entertain me if you want, but I'm just curious. You don't have to raise your hand if you want to, but how many of you had a conversation with any ASUW president in the past, whether that be a personal capacity or professional capacity? Thank you. That's awesome. Well, I want to make sure that we can get as many hands up as possible in my position. It's my responsibility to connect with students. I think ASUW can do a lot more with the transparency and accountability, especially with tabling. That's something that I want to make sure we're doing so that way we can hear from students.
Thanks to the candidates for coming in today. Let's have a round of applause for all of them. Pause for the residents who came today to engage with democracy. Lennox, you just like showed up so hard today. Feel free to reach out to candidates. I think they plug most their Instagrams. There's Ticket Instagram and personal Instagrams. Feel free to reach out to me, rcsagov@uw.edu if you have any questions after the forum, any input on forums for the future. If there's pizza left, grab some pizza. If there's not, I'm sorry. Thank you all again for coming in today.